Sup guys, over here with a short video on best add-ons for WoW Classic Hardcore. It's gonna be more tailored towards hardcore, but you can also use it if you play or plan to play on regular softcore classic era servers. This video is gonna be mostly helpful for complete newbies just coming into the game, and I think the majority of players who coming into WoW, they are aware that you need add-ons to play the game. Like, you don't technically need them, but it's gonna be very painful to play WoW without the add-ons. I think that's also the reason why some people getting turned off, because they don't want to install 20 add-ons and configure them. But it's actually not that bad. Let's just take it step by step. Basically, we're gonna first take a look at what's the best way to install add-ons, then we're gonna take a look at the mandatory add-ons, and then lastly quality of life add-ons that you may or may not want to use. So first of all, how do you install add-ons? I find that the best app is wowapp.io. You just go there, download the app, and you can open this app and actually see all your add-ons. Why I find that this is better than, for example, CurseForge? Because in CurseForge and some other clients, you need to register, you need to create account, and so in some cases, if you're not logged in, you cannot update your add-ons, you cannot browse the add-ons. So in wowapp.io, this is actually not the case. So when you are on the website, you can just download this version, this beta WoW app with CurseForge, and when you open it, there is no accounts. You don't need to create an account, you don't need to log in, you just have my add-ons. You can find new add-ons. Here's the version of the WoW that you currently utilizing the add-ons for. So basically pretty self-explanatory. You can also, there is a button update all, you can quickly update all of the add-ons. So I recommend using this app. Okay, moving on, what add-ons I would consider mandatory. So first of all, leveling and questing. Definitely you need Questie. It just shows quest objectives on the map, it shows where they are, it shows the count of your party members. Is just overall great. Without it, you can easily get lost in quest objectives. Additionally, for questing, you can install the guiding add-on. Like, for example, I use RestedXP. RestedXP is free on 1 to 20 levels. If you want to use guides higher than level 20, you will have to get premium version. That being said, if you Google it, you can find premium version for free. Obviously, I don't recommend doing that. I'm just saying that the possibility is there. Personally, I love RestedXP. Routes are very good. Also, it will tell you a lot of dangerous stuff, dangerous quests where you need to pay extra attention, or they will tell you up front what's gonna happen on the quest. Okay, more mandatory add-ons I would consider DBM. This is Deadly Boss Mods. This is a generic add-on for dungeons and raids that will tell you about mobs abilities and some bosses abilities that are targeting you or when they're gonna happen. Also keep in mind, so for that to work in dungeons, you need to first install the core version of the add-on. This is Deadly Boss Mods, and then on top of that you need to install Deadly Boss Mods. Obviously, when you're browsing through the add-ons, make sure that you are installing the version of the add-on for the classic. And also alongside DBM, I recommend using Details as a mandatory add-on. It's Details damage meter. It will show you damage, healing, like debuff, dispels, all that. It can also show threat. Also for threat, you can use a separate add-on. I'm using, where is it? Threat Classic 2, but you can also use Details in a separate window. Now let's move to optional add-ons. These are mostly quality of life add-ons, and we're gonna start with the map. To get your map to look like this, first you need Leatrix maps. And Leatrix is like a general quality of life add-on. It has a lot of features that you can use, like faster looting, faster skipping movies, like you can turn off some effects if you don't like them. So it's general just quality of life, and you can pick and choose whatever you wanna enable or disable. without actually touching other settings. So Leatrix, in my case, I have installed 2. So this is Leatrix Plus with a bunch of quality of life options, and then you have Leatrix Maps. So what it does, if your map is default, when you go to any zone where you previously haven't been, it's covered under the fog of war. And when you install Leatrix, you can see the full zone as if it's already like unveiled. On top of that, we have these nifty arrows where you can click and it takes you to adjacent zone. I mean, it's just nicer than default interface. Next we have Atlas, and if you use that, I recommend actually installing 4 add-ons here. The first one is just Atlas, then you have Atlas Classic WoW, then Atlas Loot Classic, and Atlas Quest. So what it does, so Atlas Loot is basically shows you all the information regarding the items in the game. First, there are dungeons. You can click on any dungeon, any boss, and check the loot table, check drop rates here. You can also open crafting, for example, and check different crafting items, different recipes that exist in the game. Then we have the Atlas itself. If you open it, you can see the maps of the dungeons and also the maps of the entrances to some dungeons. That can be confusing. So this way you can actually, I mean, it's easier to navigate in the dungeon, because by default, if you are in the dungeon and if you like click open the map, you're not going to see anything. It's just going to be a map of the zone. Also, what it does, if you install this add-on, the 4th one, Atlas Quest fan update, if you click here on Atlas Quest, like for example, you have Dead Mines selected, it will show you the quests associated with that dungeon. So for example, if you're not using RestedXP or any other add-ons, that will straight up tell you, go pick up this quest, go do that. You can use this add-on to see what quests are available for this dungeon, where you can pick these up, and whether or not this is like a chain quest, where it starts. You can see the rewards for this quest, so you can decide for yourself whether or not you're gonna pick up this quest for this specific dungeon. Next, I would recommend changing the nameplates. So these are these bars above mobs, because default nameplates, they are not informative at all. You can play with the default nameplates if you want, but later on I would still recommend changing those. And here you can use whatever you want. I personally use Plater. So that's the add-on, Plater nameplates. Also, one important part about nameplates, you must see the casts. By default, like even if you go to options and you search here cast, there is an option here, show enemy cast bar. By default, this is disabled. You need to enable that, and better to install again some nameplate add-ons like a Plater, for example. It will show the cast bar of the mob. You can use, there's also an add-on, I think it's called Classic Castbars. Yeah, that's the add-on, Classic Castbars. You can use that one. If you have some other add-ons, you can use those, but you must be able to see the cast of the mob. Okay, moving on to more quality of life. What can you install? Obviously for action bars. Now, this is personal preference. You can play with the default. A lot of people actually playing with the default action bars and doing just fine. I like this style of action bars. I just personally use ALVUI, that's how it's spelled. But if you're completely new, I actually do not recommend using this add-on, because if you go to settings, I mean, you're just gonna get lost. So if you want this style of action bars, I would recommend using something like Bartender. So if you go to add-ons and you just search Bartender, there you go, Bartender 4. You just install that one, and again you can change your bars, you can move them, whatever you want. Then you can enhance your bags, for example, to look something like this, to be able to sort the items with a button. Again, some complex add-ons like ALVUI can do that, or you can install Bagnon, for example. That's the add-on Bagnon. Moving on to better vendor price, it's just convenient because it will give you more information on the item price compared to default version. Okay, then we have two add-ons that on paper should also help you to survive. First one is Deathlog. It shows deaths of characters on the server. Have this notification. You can also configure that to turn some of the stuff off if you don't need it. However, one good functionality of this add-on is that it shows you like these red zones on the map where people die. So when you approach this zone, you can kind of know in advance that it can be dangerous. And the second add-on here is Classic Bestiary. That's just how it's spelled. What it does, when you hover over the mob, it will, in the tooltip at the bottom right, also show you the abilities of the mob. Now on paper this is great because you can sort of see what abilities mobs have. On practice, I think nobody's really paying attention, nobody's looking there. It can be very useful when you fight in mobs that have like deadly abilities like an execute or a thrash or something like this. Again, I would recommend installing that if you're gonna pay attention to it. If you're not gonna pay attention, you may just not bother with it. Okay, and the last add-on on my list is gonna be Nova World Buffs. This is a great add-on that tracks world buffs and also tracks your layer. So like here, for example, you can see that I'm currently on layer 5, and you can also see information about different layers. And that's mostly important because there are multiple layers on the server. Like for example, currently it shows there are 7 layers, and you can swap between layers. For example, you need like some quest objective, you need to kill some mobs. You go there and you can see that mobs just been killed, and you know that the respawn timer of this mob is like 10 minutes. Maybe you don't want to wait, and you can hop the layer. The way it basically works, you can ask in the guild or in LFG channel for somebody to give you invite to a different layer. They invite you and you're gonna jump on their layer. The word of caution here, do not layer swap or layer hop in the areas with the mobs. Like for example, everything is cleared on your layer and you want to jump to a different layer, you can end up in the situation with a lot of mobs around you that are gonna instantly aggro on you and just kill you. So you don't want to do that, especially avoid doing that in like caves and stuff where there is little room to escape. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap up here. This is my list of add-ons that I recommend installing. If you're a complete newbie into the game, maybe take it slow, just install the mandatory add-ons, and then when you feel the need to modify your default game experience, you install more add-ons based on your current needs. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you found it helpful, please drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.